quite interesting to listen to Senator McKim's comments today, because the Greens are hell-bent on weakening Australia's immigration system. They have consistently tried to open our borders to anyone, and they don't care who they are, and they don't care how that affects other Australians. Now, we see that in the disallowance motion before us. Firstly, the Greens want public health debts accrued on previous visits to Australia to be ignored when a new visa application is made. Now, there are many Australians, and actually I see that right across our country we don't have enough money to open up hospital beds for our Australian people here. We don't be able to give them the dental health care that they need, or the operations that they need. But don't worry about it. We've got to look after those that have been here previously with health debt secured. We don't want to worry about that or put any impost on these people. And then, secondly, the Greens want to allow visas to be granted to people who absolutely lied to get a visa in the past. This weakens what is known as the public interest criterion of 4020. So we are getting people who are not coming into this country that can be truthful, and we're supposed to overlook that. And then thirdly, the Greens want to remove the condition that visa holders maintain a single identity in Australia. Well, I've heard a lot of dribble get on the floor of the Parliament today with regards to, there might be an incorrect letter or the spelling may be wrong. What we're talking about is multiple names. How often do we hear constantly through Centrelink or any other, even driver's licences, Centrelink, even getting your HR driver's licence or any certificate, that we have people who are rorting the system with multiple names. Why shouldn't we expect someone to have the right name? We have had migrants that have come into this country in flood after the Second World War that actually come out to Australia. They had names that were hard to pronounce, but they got through the system. They had to do it tough. And most of the time, I wish the Labor Party and the Greens would actually see the vote that One Nation got in the last election in Queensland, because in a lot of the seats we've pulled 25 to 30%. Our average is around about 21 to 22% right across the state. That's a clear indication that they are not listening to what the Australian people want. You're talking about, and I cannot really get my head around the fact is, every time I hear the Greens in this chamber, all they are worried about is the people who have come to this country illegally, people who want to come to this country, like the illegals that are at Manus Island. Manus Island's got absolutely nothing to do with this. That's the detention centre. They were the illegals. We're talking about visa holders coming to Australia. It's got nothing to do with Manus Island. And then I have never heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but the time that I've been here, I have never heard the Greens stand up and fight for the farmers in this country, the people that are homeless on the streets. You don't need to go very far. It actually happens here in Canberra on the streets at night when I go back to my apartment after finishing a day here. Where's the fight for those people to find out whether they've got decent healthcare or housing? I never hear one word from them. I often wonder what the hell they're doing in this parliament, because it's not representing the Australian people that have voted for them. It's always representing someone else around the rest of the world. And the Labor says they want to lock them up because they are disruptive. Well, let's look at the streets of Melbourne. Go and ask the people down in Melbourne how they feel about it with these ones that have come into the country. They've lost control of their streets in Melbourne, and they'd dearly love to do something about it. Yes, if people are not going to abide by the rules of this country and be disruptive, if they think they can carry on in this country like they have from the place they've come from, no, we don't want them. Why would we? And to talk about, if they actually go, as Senator McKim said, if they go 6 k's over the limit, well, they're going to be locked up and they're going to be thrown into a detention centre. What an exaggeration, an absolute exaggeration. That is not the case whatsoever. We have allowed too many people in this country who are abusing us and taking us for granted and take us for mugs, and it's what we're seeing around the world. We're actually mugs. And when I see taxpayers in this country are forking out more and more, and we're raising their taxes even more so, there's no real wage increases, there's nothing. and Australians are doing it tough. And yet bleeding hearts in this place are going out to people who want to come here. We don't need these people in this country. We can actually be very, very particular who we bring in, and we should be, because people are breaking down our doors to actually come to Australia. We want quality of people coming into this country and not making excuses for them. Set the tough laws and the reasons, and then it's like many migrants who are now supporting One Nation because they know how tough it was for them to get here. They're sick of seeing all the leniencies that are given to these others that will lie and cheat to get into this country. They have no regard for Australia. They don't want to be Australian. They have no respect for our culture or our laws or our way of life. You actually, and you talk about the legal system. I know many Australians that would dearly love to be able to afford to go and have their cases paid for by the taxpayer, but we haven't got the money. We've actually now, it was around about $12 per person in Australia for legal aid. Now it's down to $7 per person. People can't afford to get legal aid in Australia, and yet you're opening up our courts and we're going to pay for it. There's also quite interesting that even the Xenophon team may, I believe, may be supporting this disallowance. You know, it's about representing the people here in Australia. Let me just, you talk about people coming here. We have what is the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. Now, this was set up about 30-odd years ago. I think it was about 1970s to 1980s. I'm not quite sure, but it cost about $2 million a year that we actually cost us. Now, this tribunal now costs us $142 million to run. And what it does is that people who come here on visas, they can actually appeal to it. And what's happening is people are actually applying to come to Australia. And we have opened up for visa applications from Malaysia. And it's the only third world country that can do it via the internet. And we've got about 4,000 to 5,000 a year that apply for a visa to come to Australia. A very high percentage of those people, after being here for 3 months, apply for refugee status. They then, when the Immigration Department knocks them back, they then apply to the tribunal, which is a $35 fee. On average, it takes around 386 days for a decision to be made. In the meantime, they are given a bridging visa, they can work, and they're looked after. Most of them actually leave the country before the 386 days after they've accumulated and worked and they've got some money to take back to their own country. And we're actually paying for that. That's the taxpayers paying for it. Like I said, $142 million a year to set that up. And a lot of them are coming from Malaysia, there's China and India and Pakistan. And we've actually, like I said, we're taken for mugs. And here I have Australians here who only need a few $1,000s to help them, and charities and organisations that we need to help our own. But like I said, the bleeding hearts in this country just disgust me, because it was the Australian people that voted for you to represent them, to fight for their needs and fix up their needs. Clean up our own backyard first before you worry about everyone else around the world. And this is what we need to do first. And I guarantee that the Australian people will agree with what I say about this. It's nothing about, and we do need to have intervention with this, because we cannot keep going down the track that we're going. And you have more and more people applying for visas here, will come out here under a visa and turn around and abuse the whole system. We don't need any more people on our welfare system. We cannot afford it, because by 2019-2020 we are reaching $191 billion. And we cannot afford it any further. So I'm calling on the Xenophon Party to rethink, if they are going to support this disallowance motion, and rethink about looking after the Australian people, because they are the ones who actually voted for you to represent them in this parliament. Not everyone else that wants to try and get into this country has no regard for the Australian value or way of life.